Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on the Recovery Housing Repairs Fund. We're going to be talking about the updated deadlines to the fund today. My name is Danielle Gray. I serve as the Executive Director for Ohio Recovery Housing. Just so you know, we are on Teams. There is a chat feature as well as a question and answer box. So if you have questions throughout today's webinar, please type those questions into those boxes, and I will be checking that, trying to keep my eye on it throughout the presentation, but definitely at the end, I will go through and make sure any questions are answered. You can also reach out to us on our website, ohiorecoveryhousing.org as well. So during today's webinar, we're going to go over the purpose of these grant funds, the eligibility, the process to apply, some key things to remember, and then, as well as I said, answer any questions that you have. So to jump right in about the funds, these funds are from the Ohio Housing Trust Fund, and a portion of the Ohio Housing Trust Fund was provided to Ohio Recovery Housing to distribute for critical repairs to assist recovery homes in meeting quality standards. So these are not new dollars that are available. It is the same pot of money that we had gotten last year, only we did not spend all of it for various reasons. And so we had gotten an extension in how long we could have this grant be good for. So previously we had until the end of 2024 to spend the funds, and now we have a few extra months into 2025 to spend the funds. So it is not a new pot of money. It is not additional money. They're just giving us more time to spend the previous award. And so the purpose of these funds, remains the same. It is to assist recovery housing operators in achieving certification or retaining certification. Funds are not intended to open new houses or make major renovations to existing homes. It really is designed to provide people just a little bit of assistance. So say if you were interested in certification, but you couldn't meet certification because you needed to do this repair and you didn't have enough funds for the repair, enough funds to do the appropriate things for the house, these funds would be available for you so you could overcome that barrier to certification regarding your physical property, and then you could become certified. So they're not meant to help as seed money for new homes or to do a huge major renovation to add capacity to a house. They're meant to help people overcome barriers to certification. And so eligible properties are those that meet the definition of recovery housing in the Ohio Revised Code. So we have that definition on the next slide, but you do need to meet the definition of recovery housing in the Ohio Revised Code. The property also needs to be owned or leased by the organization operating the recovery housing. So again, all of the funds are going to be going to an organization and not an individual. And so you must have that documentation with the address of the property. And in a little bit, I'm going to go over what is eligible for properties that are owned by the organization and what's eligible for properties that are leased by the organization. And now the property must be going through the certification process or recertification process with Ohio Recovery Housing. Properties are not eligible until they apply for certification, they have their on-site visit, and needed repairs are identified in a quality improvement report. So that is really important. So don't spend a bunch of money doing things that you think you need to do. Have us show up to do an on-site visit, and then there are no longer any barriers to certification. We need to see that there are barriers to certification during our on-site visit. We'll give you a report, and then you may apply for funds to address anything that is on the report. If you don't apply for certification at all, you can't access these funds. And the property must be able to receive full certification by May 31st, 2025. So this means that to be fully certified, you have to go through the entire process, policies, procedures, all of those things. Also, in terms of your repairs, if they're, again, it's not meant for major renovations. It's meant for things that could be addressed fairly quickly. So things like a whole addition or things like that likely aren't going to be able to be done by this deadline. And so those things would not be eligible. And so the definition of recovery housing, this is in the Ohio Revised Code. Recovery housing means housing for individuals recovering from alcoholism or drug addiction that provides an alcohol and drug-free living environment, peer support, assistance with obtaining alcohol and drug addiction services, and other alcoholism and drug addiction recovery assistance. So the funds can be used for these recovery homes that are applying for certification. Funds cannot be used for adult care facilities, treatment centers, homeless shelters, or other housing types. We love all of those other housing types, but they are not recovery homes, and so they would not be eligible. And so the property must apply for ORH certification. So this means that the property must have appropriate policies and procedures in place for the recovery home, appropriate staffing in place based on their level of support, and appropriate programming currently being implemented in the house. So you must have all of those things in order to submit your application, and then you must participate in the on-site visit that goes along with ORH certification. And funds may be used to address any eligible physical property recommendations on the on-site visit report. If you do not have this report, then we are not able to give you funding. So if you are interested in getting funds, again, for something that you know is an issue, and you want to do it before you have the reviewers come out, unfortunately, we would not be able to fund it then. We have to be able to come out to the property through either your initial certification or through your recertification, see that there is something that needs to be addressed in order for you to achieve the quality standards. We will give you a report of all of those things that need to be addressed in order for you to achieve the quality standards, and then you can apply for funding for things that are listed on the report. You cannot, again, just apply for things without that report that shows that the items that you need are a barrier to certification. And funds are to help with certification. And I realize there's a typo here. This is May 31st, 2025. It's not even the new year yet, and I'm already making that mistake of putting in the old year. But you must be able to achieve certification by May 31st, 2025. So again, you have to have your policies and procedures in place, your appropriate staffing in place, appropriate programming. Everything has to be in place, and you just need to address these physical property issues in order to achieve your certification. If you are nowhere near ready to actually start opening and operating a recovery home, you don't have appropriate policies, things like that, and you're not going to be ready to have your certification by either preliminary or full certification by May 31st, 2025, you won't be eligible for reimbursement of the funds. We have to see that certificate that you got either your preliminary or your full certification in order to write you the check for reimbursement of the expenses. And so eligible uses of the funds, and so these are for organizations where you own the property. So if your organization owns the property, so that means if you are a nonprofit, the nonprofit owns the properties, or if you are a for-profit, the for-profit company owns the properties. We have to see that the owner is the organization. We cannot, even if you're the owner of both, you own the property and you also own the business, that is not the same thing as the organization running the recovery house owning the property. So we need to see that organization owns the property. And then the items must be essential for certification based on the site visit. So again, the repairs that are needed to address the issues that were listed on the report. So this can include things like installation of required safety equipment, installation of egress windows, repair of kitchen cabinets, appliances, or installation of food storage, purchase of essential furniture, And the only thing we prohibit here is we will not buy bunk beds. Funding is, you can use funds to purchase single beds, but you cannot use funds to purchase bunk beds. You can only use funds to purchase single beds. And then installation or repairs of appliances that are not in good working order. Repairs of other health and safety hazards, such as broken windows, loose tiles, torn carpet, and fees to cover the costs of removal of unsafe structures and associated debris. And the repairs we need to see must be able to be done within 3 months of you getting approved for the grant funds. So we want to see that people are approved, they're able to do the repairs, and then they get their reimbursement quickly. Now, if you lease the property, we cannot provide funds for anything that is fixed to the structure. So we cannot provide funds for things like a furnace repair or windows or carpet, because those are items that are fixed to the property. But what we can provide funds for are things like essential furniture, purchase or repairs of appliances that are not fixed to the property. So like a refrigerator is not fixed to the property. We can provide funds for that. And again, it must be essential according to the on-site visit report. So it really is very limited on what we can provide for leased properties, but it must be, again, essential, and it cannot be fixed to the property if the property is leased. And so ineligible uses of funds. These funds cannot be used for rental subsidies. They cannot be used for new construction or purchasing buildings. They cannot be used for staff salaries or other supportive services. They cannot be used to replace appliances or other items that are in good working order. They cannot be used for installation or repair of items that are not needed to meet the quality standards. They cannot be used for decorations. They cannot be used for routine maintenance or for routine supplies or consumables. So things like food, linens, cleaning supplies, dishes, the funds cannot be used for those items. And there is a maximum amount of funds. It is a maximum of $10,000 per property and $30,000 per organization. So if you run more than one property, say you have 3 properties, you are eligible to apply for up to $10,000 per property. If you have, say, 6 properties, you can apply for 3 properties for $10,000 each. You can apply for all 6 properties at $5,000 each, but the award cannot exceed $10,000 per property or $30,000 per organization. And so the process, the funds are provided upon reimbursement and upon certification. So we have to see that you had completed the repairs, get the receipts that show the exact amount that was needed to complete those repairs or make the purchases that you need to purchase, and that those items led to those barriers being removed and you were able to get certified. So this means that you must complete an application. Your application will be reviewed and approved, and then you will complete the repairs. So if you go and you complete the repairs before you submit your application, we're not going to be able to fund those. So you need to complete the application, have your application approved, then complete the repairs, and then save all of your documentation, such as invoices and receipts, and then submit the final receipts and invoices to ORH along with documentation that the repairs were completed. And then we may request a second on-site visit to verify that the repairs were made or that the items that you purchased are within the home. But we may also request other documentation like photographs or statements made by your organization as well. It depends on the particular grant application. You will also submit to us your ORH certificate that says, hey, look, I've been certified, so we can have that document in our records. And then we will provide you with the certification, or with the reimbursement. So all of those things need to be done in order for you to receive the reimbursement. And when we evaluate the applications, we are going to make sure that you submit all of the appropriate documents. We're going to review each expense for eligibility and appropriateness. And then we will review the timeline for your timeline for achieving certification. So again, you got to be able to achieve certification. And if that's not possible within the allotted time frame, we won't be able to approve the application. And then review the plan for meeting other requirements for certification. So, so again, these awards are only up to $10,000, but if your home needs $100,000 worth of repairs, we want to see, hey, well, what's your plan to make sure you're going to have $90,000 to complete those other repairs? So that way, we can we can know that you will achieve certification. We're going to hold these funds for you and not give them to somebody else because you're going to be able to do the repairs, achieve certification, and then get that reimbursement. So we do want to see that explanation again. If you have a ton of repairs, like how are you going to do everything else that needs to be done if there's only $10,000 coming from us? And any changes to your budget must be approved. So again, if there's something like, hey, there's a repair that is more expensive than you thought it would be. Say you had requested $2,000 to replace carpet and it ended up being $2,500. You can request a budget change from Ohio Recovery Housing. And if we have funds available, we may be able to make that budget change for you. I encourage you to be very good about getting estimates and requesting again what you need because funds may run out. And so if we do have available funds, then we may be able to approve that budget change. But if we don't have available funds, then even though it cost more, we wouldn't be able to increase the budget. Similarly, if you want to move funds from line item to line item. So maybe the carpet installation costs more, but you're able to get a deal on a new refrigerator that you needed. You can swap items throughout the budget. And you may request, again, to move funding from one line item to another. And so the other important notes is you must agree to participate in the ORH outcomes tools. And repairs must be completed by a licensed contractor. So this is really important. You cannot request funds and then do all of the repairs yourself if you're not a licensed contractor. We need to see that a licensed contractor performed the work, you were invoiced appropriately, and that you paid that invoice to the licensed contractor. So, and if it is something that you are doing yourself, say like you needed to paint a room and you're going to do it yourself, yes, we can reimburse you for the paint, but we cannot reimburse you for your time. So it would be like, fine, we'll reimburse you for the paint materials and you would send us a receipt for that, but we would not reimburse for a painter fee unless you hired a licensed contracted an appropriately licensed person to come in and do that work for you, and then we would reimburse for that expense. And then again, you must obtain certification to get reimbursement. If you aren't able to get certified in the appropriate timeline, we won't be able to reimburse you. So be very cautious of those timelines and make sure that you're able to achieve certification so you can get your reimbursement. And then certification must be achieved by May 31st, 2025. So again, my apologies, it's May 31st, 2025. And that is the latest date that you can achieve certification. So that is about 6 months away from now. If you're not able to achieve certification by then we are not going to be able to provide funds because that's with the extension that we were given, we will not be able to give out funds after that. So how to apply? I'm going to show you where the application is on our website. So if you go to our website, there is right on our homepage, one of these boxes says Recovery Housing Repairs Fund. You can click on that. And then the Recovery Housing Repairs Fund, you could read all the details about the fund and then click at the bottom for the application. And there's more details, just going over a lot of what I talked about today. And then you will tell us your organization name. So I'm just going to say Hope House, your country/region. We just need that for the address feature. And then the address, I'm going to say 123 Main Street. So Suite 100, because this is my mailing address. I'm in Columbus, my state zip code for 3215. And then give us the name of the person responsible for the application. So that's me, type in your email. We're going to want a phone number in case we have questions for you. And then we ask you just some demographic information. And this doesn't impact the evaluation of your application. It's just we're required to collect this information so we can report appropriately to the Ohio Department of Development because we're using the Ohio Housing Trust Funds. So let's say my home serves 20 people per year. They ask if parents can have minor children living in the home with them. I say no. And if my home serves any specialized population. So let's see, my home is specifically provide services for LGBTQIA populations. And then you'll tell us about the house that the property itself that you want to be certified. So there's the country, so United States, again, for our address feature, I'm going to say it's the same thing, 123 Main Street, the state, and it knows I'm making it up. That's why it's having some issues with my address here, but you type in everything and then the county. So I'm in Franklin County. And then you'll tell us if the house is currently certified, yes or no. And again, you can apply if you're currently certified as a part of the recertification process. You have to go through recertification and identify barriers for you to maintaining your certification. But you would just let us know yes or no. If the home has participated in a dwelling review, and you would say, yes. If you say no, we're not going to be able to accept your application. So say yes. Does your organization own the above listed properties? To let us know. And then you'll upload proof that the organization owns the property. So I'm just going to upload like a general file here and then describe the repairs that are needed. So I'm going to say needs new carpet, your timeline. So carpet install within 4 weeks of approval. And then you'll upload the quality improvement report that you received from your certification review coordinator. So that will be uploaded. And then you're going to do your budget, and you can download from that link a blank copy of the budget. So, and that file is opening. Okay, and so this is what the budget file looks like. Try to, all right, there we go. So let me drag it over now. So you're going to put in your organization name, the house address, and then you're going to list the items that are needed. So for this one, we'd say need new carpet. Your plan to adjust the item, have handy carpet, install new carpet, and then say this is going to cost $2,500. And then for this one, you don't need any additional funds from an additional source, so you wouldn't say that. But let's say, you needed a much bigger repair. So you need a kitchen remodel, and that's going to cost you $15,000. So over here, you'd say, hey, well, I'm requesting $10,000 from you, but I'm going to get $5,000 from my local grant or reserve of funds or whatever. But we just want to see, hey, you've thought about how you're going to fund the rest of that project. So we're not going to set aside $10,000 for you, not give it to somebody else, and then you were never able to complete the project because you weren't able to secure the additional funds that you needed. And then it'll show down here the total amount requested. oh, sorry. So this would be $10,000 from the grant, 5,000 needed from another source. So you'd make sure that your total amount requested is $10,000 or less. So, okay. And so some tips for your budget: list each expense separately. And so this is as we're reviewing it, we're going to say, hey, this expense is allowable or this expense is not allowable. And so by listing each separately, it can help us be like, yes, 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 yes. Oh, that one's, something we can't fund. And instead of throwing out everything because they're all included in one big line item, we can make sure that we're approving all of those expenses. Make sure your expense is tied to a recommendation on the report. So again, we can only fund things that are barriers to certification. We can't fund extras. And so make sure that each expense you are looking for is tied to a recommendation on the report. And if it's not obvious, you in that narrative section of the application, you can explain to us, hey, this is why it's important. And so say, you needed a new drywall in your bathroom, and then you're also asking for a roof repair. We're going to be like, hey, well, why is that? It's like, well, you can explain to us, when looking at the drywall, we realized it was getting damaged because there was a leak in the roof. And so in order to fix the root cause, we also need this roof repair. But if you don't explain that to us, we're going to be like, oh, well, we didn't notice there was a roof repair needed. We're not going to help you pay for that. So really, again, use that space to help us understand what's going on. And then get a good estimate for the expenses. Again, it just helps everyone if you request the amount that you need, we give you the amount that you need, and then we have more funds available for everyone. Please don't request more funds than what you need. Like I said, we can do a budget adjustment. You have to ask us for it. Just because you end up spending more doesn't mean that we will give you more. You have to request that in advance and get that approved as an addendum to your application and an addendum to your budget. Otherwise, we will not be able to give you the additional funds. But if you get a good estimate, that makes sure that those types of situations don't happen. Especially, like I said, we need to have we need to make sure that we have funds available, because if we don't have funds available anymore, we're not going to be able to approve anyone's budget change requests if they need additional funds. And then explain how you'll meet other items that are listed on the report. So again, if you've got 5 items listed and you can only meet 2 of them with $10,000, put the other items in the budget and then tell us, this is how we're going to pay for those other items. This is our plan for addressing the other items, because we need to see that you've got a plan to achieve certification. That we're not going to set aside these dollars for you. You're not going to go out and spend the money thinking you're going to get a $10,000 reimbursement, and then you're not able to achieve certification, and then we can't give you that reimbursement. So tell us, hey, what is your plan for anything else that goes above and beyond that $10,000? And then again, we can only award $10,000 per property. We can't go above that. And so just an example here, because I've been seeing this a lot. So for instance, if you put in purchase refrigerator and dishwasher and you want $1,000 for that, we would have to reject that entire expense, because dishwashers aren't required for meeting quality standards. You may want one, your residents might want one, but they're not required. And so we'd be like, well, we can't give you money to purchase a dishwasher. And because you lumped the refrigerator and the dishwasher into that same line, we'd have to reject the whole thing. However, if you had broken it out for us and been like, hey, we need $600 for a refrigerator and $400 for a dishwasher, then I can see, hey, yes, the reviewer noticed the refrigerator wasn't working appropriately, or there was no refrigerator. We can give you the $600 for the refrigerator. You wanted a dishwasher? No, sorry, we cannot give you the funds for the dishwasher. And then, you can still get $600 for what you need, instead of now you're not getting funding for either for either of those items because you had lumped them on the same line, if that makes sense. Okay, and so now I'm going to turn it over for questions. I do see one here. We are ORH certified. We'd love to apply for new furnishings and the beds that come apart and make single. Are we able to request that? We were certified in April 2024. So my answer to that is if you are going through the recertification process, you want to apply for your recertification early, which people are allowed to do, we would have to go out to your property and see that there are barriers for you to being recertified. So if the furniture is broken, the beds aren't able to be used, they're unsafe, you need to replace them in order to maintain your certification, then yes, we can give you funds for that. But you cannot apply to us now and just ask for new furnishings. We need to have that documentation that it's a barrier for you to maintaining your certification or achieving certification. All right, someone said, I'm asking for clarification about the organization owning the home. I'm not sure what would be helpful. I guess I can go back to that slide. So let's see, eligibility. Okay, so the property has to be owned or leased by the organization that operates the recovery housing. So it must be the organization and not an individual, and must have documentation with the address of the property. So a lot of people turn in the page from the county auditor, where if you search for an address in the county auditor's page, it'll show you who owns the property. And so if Maple Street Recovery Home is the operator of the recovery housing, that's the organization that's applying for certification. And we see on the county auditor's page, that's Maple Street Recovery Home that also owns the property, then that's the organization is the appropriate organization that owns the home. All right, if I own the home in an LLC and I own the organization, a different LLC, how would that be viewed? The organization that operates the recovery home is not the organization that, they're two separate organizations. And so we would not be able to give you funds for the items that are fixed to the property because those are two separate organizations and they're not the same. So they have to be the same organization that's operating the recovery home is the one that owns the recovery home. So I hope that provides you the clarification that you needed. Okay. And so, like I said, there's, I did skip this part. Apologies, I got distracted by the budget. But once you're done with the budget, you would save it and then you would upload a budget. We also request a W-9 and then any other supporting documentation. So again, this is where you would turn in any other items to us that explain any of the repairs that are needed, all of that, and then tell us the total amount of the property and click submit. So it's really not a tricky application. Is it accurate that the ADAMH boards do not apply on behalf of organizations? Operators apply individually? Yes, the operator applies for these funds themselves. The county board does not apply for the funds for them. Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, I can try to see if we can post the PowerPoint, on the page as well. I am going to update, those dates where I forgot that it would 2025 instead of 2024. So it's correct on this slide of May 31st, 2025. But I made those errors, so I'll correct those errors and then get that posted on the website. Great. I am not seeing any other questions, but if you are like me, you will hang up and then think of questions, and that's fine. I'd rather have you call and ask us questions. Okay, so somebody says they do have a question, so you can, are there questions in the Q&A tab? All right, did I not Just back there. I see one, oh, new, I'm learning something new about teams every day. Okay, so sorry about this. I will answer these other questions too. We just renewed our certification in 2023. The current certification expires in March of 2026. Yes, you are still eligible, and you actually have like, and this is a good question because if your certification expired in 2023, then you would be, it's 2 years. So that would be 2025. So this would be perfect timing for you if you're up for renewal in like the spring of 2025. Apply for recertification. We would come out. If there's any barriers to you maintaining your certification, then you can get the funds. It's for those getting newly certified as well as those who need to maintain their certification. And then somebody asked, can we apply for these funds if we have already completed the improvements based off the recertification visit, paid for improvement, and received our certification? Cost reimbursement, and if so, what time period can we go back? No, we cannot. We can, again, it needs to be for a barrier to certification that exists at the time of your application. If you have already addressed them, if you have already paid, if you've already gotten your certification, there are no longer any barriers to certification for you, and we cannot provide you any reimbursement. So, so unfortunately, no, we cannot provide funds for those things. And we are certified at another house location. We recently moved and purchased a new home and submitted our certification app for the new property. Do you wait to apply for repairs until after the property is certified? You would apply for this. So I'll go over the timeline again. I'm going to pull that slide up again. Let me find it. So this, where is it? Process. Here we are. So first you complete your application, and it sounds like you've already done that. So you've submitted your application to have this property certified. Then you will have your on-site visit. And once you have your on-site visit, you'll see the list of repairs that you need to do. Once you have that report, you will complete this application. You'll have the application for the repairs funds approved. You will complete the repairs, send in your invoices and receipts, and then submit and then also because the repairs are done, you'll be like, hey, I'm ready for certification now. You will complete the certification process, and then you will get us saying like, hey, I've submitted my ORH certification, and then we'll provide you reimbursement. So so again, it's like we come out, we see that repairs are needed, you apply for funds to fix the items. We say, hey, we're going to give you money to fix these things. You fix the things. We come out, we verify, yes, they're fixed. You're all good to go for certification. You get your certification, and then you turn in your stuff and get your reimbursement. So, so that's how the process goes. If you repair things before we come out, then it's not a barrier of certification when we get there. Or if you're certified when you apply, there's no barrier to certification because you're certified. Do you have a separate budget for each house, or you can combine different houses under one budget form? Each application is for a separate house. So if you have 3 houses, you will submit 3 different applications. Just want to make sure I am getting everything here. All right, so from the time the application is submitted, how long does it take for an on-site review? So right now, it is taking about 4 weeks for your application to get assigned to a certification review coordinator. And then from there, it can take another 6 to 8 weeks for us to come out and do the on-site visit. So yes, you are right. It is a tight timeline. So if you are interested in these funds, get your application in as soon as possible. So that way you can be in the queue so we can go out, we can do the visit, you can identify what needs to be done, and you can get your certification. So, or if you want to get recertified early because you know you're going to have, repairs funds that you need to do, again, get your application for recertification in so that way we can start that process. So that's a very good point. These are definitely rewards to those who don't wait to get certified. All right. And so just for clarification, we are certified in April of this year and apply for recertification January, February. We would not be eligible or funding until January, February during our recertification process if we need items to maintain certification. And yes, that is true, but I will tell you, if you feel like you really need something, there's nothing that says you can't get recertified early. So even if your application doesn't expire, so I would say, hey, maybe my application, like you, it expires in 2026, but I know I need $10,000 worth of repairs because something happened to the house and I want to take advantage of these funds. You can apply for recertification early. We're not going to reject your application, be like, well, no, you can't get recertified early. You can get recertified early. But weigh that with you because, yes, I know we have a certification fee and all of that you have to consider, but, we're not going to stop people from getting recertified early. Especially if there's anyone on this call who's maybe your application's not up for recertification until August. Yes, apply a few months early. Then you might be able to take advantage of some of these funds that are available. So I just want to be clear about that. If you're interested, even if your recertification date's not until far in the future, you can always reapply early. But we do need to do that on-site visit, and there needs to be barriers to you maintaining that certification. Back to the chat because I think I see something in the chat. Okay. All right. Are funds only available for nonprofit organizations? You may have covered the information by logged in late. And no, these funds are available for both for-profit and nonprofit organizations. So you do not need to be a nonprofit to apply for these funds. And then I think this is the same question in both chat and the Q&A session. Okay, I'm going to go back to Q&A. I think something else came in there. All right, so is the funding only available during recertification time, or can we also apply on an as-needed basis? It's only available with certification or recertification. You cannot apply on an as-needed basis. Okay. All right, I think I scrolled through. I think I answered all of the questions. If I haven't, put some explanation points or anything in either the chat or the Q&A box. I am sorry about not scrolling appropriately to see all of the additional questions that came in the Q&A box, but hopefully I have answered them all. And like I said, if not, we are available for you. So I'm going to bring up our website again. This is our phone number. And this is our email address, so you can feel free to reach out to us. Excuse me, all of these emails, they do come through to me, or you can email me at danielle@ohiorecoveryhousing.org. Again, happy to answer any questions that you have. But like I said, I encourage you, if you've been waiting, get your application for certification in, so that way we can get out as soon as we can to do the on-site visit, and you can take advantage of these funds. We have about $200,000 of funds left. So that is a maximum award of 20 different properties, but it could be more if people don't need the full $10,000 per property. So okay, so with that, I'm not seeing, again, just checking one more time, not seeing any additional questions. I hope I see your applications for certification come in soon, and I look forward to seeing you on another ORH webinar. I hope everyone has a great afternoon. Thank you.